Hi, and welcome to Something for the Weekend, brought to you as always by Together 2012 CIC. We're a social enterprise led by disabled artists and based in the main London 2012 Paralympic host borough of Newham in East London, from where we are creating a Paralympic cultural legacy. And of course, here we are again with the Tokyo Paralympics. So we'll be having a bit of a Paralympic themed show today, along as well, always with lots of art and poetry. My name's Ju Gosling, also known as the artist Ju90. I'm artistic director of Together 2012. I'm here where I've been since March 2020, but who's counting, in my East London studio, and joining me in my what would otherwise be solitude is our chair, the artist and activist, Julie Newman. So we're going to come back to East London for some audio description and further introductions in a little while and tell you what's on the show today. But first, without further ado, to the other end of our long virtual wheeled sofa, all the way to that little known London borough in the West Midlands, Sutton Coldfield, for some introductions and audio description. And as always, we're dressing up to go out to stay in. I would say no guesses what we're dressed up to do unless you're waiting for the audio description, but it's a little less obvious in the West Midlands. So go for it. Who are you? What are you dressed up to do?
Afternoon, I'm Tracy Surgeoner, and audio description of me. I am sitting in front of our red velvet curtains in our studio. I've got increasingly long blonde hair, pale skin, blue eyes, and I am wearing a white background t-shirt with a picture of Sonic the Hedgehog on it. Now, Sonic the Hedgehog is in Tokyo, and he's one of the mascots for Tokyo this year for the Paralympics. Robin?
Well, hello. Now, actually, we're going to have to be very good at audio descriptions because I don't think we have live video again. I've just checking, and unless I'm doing it wrong, we have subtitles but no pictures. However,
very unusual, isn't it? I think for anybody who's bearing with us and listening, we'll try and pretend that isn't happening, having double checked everything earlier. And we'll put together the video, we hope, at the end of the show if YouTube deigns to release it to us. We will be changing the day that we record the show in a couple of weeks' time because we suspect Friday afternoon is not a good time in East London to try to do anything on the internet when they're uploading things and all the backups for the Isle of Dogs and the, well, what do we call it? The financial industry, as they say. But I think all the technical problems we've had, that's a strange one again. However, moving swiftly on, because we'll be cutting this out in the editing, tell us more about your Sonic the Hedgehog t-shirt, Robin.
Well, okay, so I am Robin Surgeoner. I am business director at Together 2012 and an artist known as Angry Fish. So I have got grey blonde hair this week, actually. Not quite sure why, but there you go. And it also needs cutting. I have not quite yet retired my no-rimmed black-armed glasses, which are in front of my blue eyes. And I am wearing also a white T-shirt, slightly broader than Tracy's, has to be said. Sonic the Hedgehog T-shirt. So I'll describe the T-shirt. So it's a basic white T-shirt with Sonic in big red letters across the top, and then the hedgehog in kind of stylized black letters underneath. And then underneath that is a picture of Sonic. And if you've never seen Sonic the Hedgehog, it's a kind of blue and white hedgehog with Mickey Mouse white hands and stands on 2 feet rather than 4.
I thought I knew what Sonic the Hedgehog was, but I don't, and now I've decided we've run out of time. So ask if anybody's watching on our website, you do need to click on the image to get it to stream. It won't stream automatically, and that could be while you're seeing the captions underneath Robin and not the actual picture. So coming up today, celebrating As always, the Paralympics will include our Clockwork Paralympics in the second half of the show. But first, Julie, who are you? What do you look like? And what are you dressed up to stay out to go in to do?
I'm Julie Newman. I'm the chair of Together 2012. I'm dressed up in my Paralympic supporting outfit. I have a blue baseball cap with a England,
Great Britain
flag on it and a white rim. I have a grey T-shirt with the semicircle, which is the Paralympic insignia for Tokyo 2020. Underneath it's written Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games. I have red hair, auburn hair, golden hair. It's flowing gracefully on my shoulders today because it's freshly washed. I have dark rimmed glasses on, and I'm holding a microphone with a little yellow ball at the top, which needs replacing actually. So
hint, hint, she says.
yeah, this is its last outing.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. And finally, I've got the same Great Britain Olympic baseball cap as Julie. Underneath that, mercifully hidden, is a self-styled hennaed corona crop. My hair doesn't really do shoulder length. It just does out at the sides and out at the top. So I'm better off with the clippers. I've got a white Paralympics GB t-shirt. I think another knockoff one, like we were talking about last week. I'm sure you have the proper Japanese Sonic t-shirts. But I've also got green eyes behind black plastic glasses, pale olive skin, black plastic wrist braces, and silver-coloured jewellery. And behind us is Tanny the teddy bear waving her Paralympics GB flag, and in fact sitting with a little, what is it? It's a Paralympic, well, we'll introduce her later, but it's one of the official Paralympic mascots. So that will be coming up in the second half of the show. But first, let's have some poetry. So this week's Pop-Up Poetry Club celebrated Carnival as a theme. And as regular viewers know, and indeed club's participants at Together 2012 know, we celebrate Carnival in the summer, and this year has been no different, apart from the fact that we've done it at home. So we've been telling you lots about the Kitchen Carnival, and we'll be telling you a bit more later. But in the meantime, let's hear some poems with a Carnival theme. And do you want to start, Robin?
Oh, okay, I will indeed. So I'm going to start with one from Taylor Henville, entitled Carnival. Roaming round the carnival, watching the floats go by in bold colours that catch the eye. People dancing in the street to rhythm, to the beat. Neon costumes adorned in sequins and feathers that twinkle and flutter in the sunny weather. People in colourful masks that hide the face dance and sing in the crowded space, and the music swells, rumbles and roars, sending vibrations that rattle the floor, and the crowd cheers on, and the screams out for more.
Wonderful. Thank you, Taylor. And also thank you, Taylor, for volunteering for us at the Film Festival and the Pop-Up Poetry Club for several years now. And congratulations on your new job. Julie, what have you got for us?
I've got a poem from Alison Marchant, who's the international artist, who's our programme leader. She's titled it Memories of Carnival. The procession snakes for miles, a kaleidoscope of colours with dancing feet along a symphony of sound, some passing entertainment for the masses, a long walk in the midst of great crowds. The sun is shining as I listen to the beating of the drums and skirts billowing and swaying in a shimmering haze of glittery colour. You can hear the sound of traditional steel bands, see people parting and clapping their hands. It's a dazzling show which encompasses every colour of the rainbow.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Alice. And that certainly brings back some memories. What have you got for us, Tracy?
Right, I've got one by Ellen Goody, carnival flags. Carnival, waving flags. On a truck, slippery carnival flags. Lots of people.
Thank you, Ellen. And Julie and I were remembering, and I'm sure Ellen was, the very first time we participated in Newham Carnival in 2014. And a group of them, including Ellen and Julie, were on what was indeed a very, very, very slippery truck indeed. We've been told that there was an accessible vehicle, and it turned out to be a trailer with a commercial ramp, but enough of that. But yes, it's not often that people think of it as slippery, but of course if you're performing in the carnival, there's all sorts of, it can be a massive marathon, but also a lot of fun. And this one is from Pies and Malik Neve, and it's just called Carnival. On hearing the word carnival, we feel that it is another festival. When we see floats of decorated transport with colourful dancers hot in shorts, we see bright flags, balloons and ribbons waving and flying as in severe monsoons. We hear the chanting, singing and beating of drums, melodious flutes and bells ringing. We see smiles of happiness enjoying our carnival. Many dance merrily along, joining the upheaval of loud cheers and waving hands, feeling good and looking grand. We enjoyed all the planning and preparations, always looking forward as an annual celebration, the festival that spectators are ready to stand by along the route with flying kisses and jumping high, shouting, "We all love you, well done, see you next year in the sun." And it has to be said, we've never been to a wet carnival, although we've done several years in Newham and several years in Hackney. I think perhaps the fact we've been doing a virtual carnival this summer, though, has actually been quite a good thing. So, Robin, what else have you got for us?
Okay, I have one from Dwayne Bryan. Again, the simple title of Carnival. Carnival is bright and fun. Carnival is for everyone. Lights and everything seems so right. You have your tambourines and you are beating your drum. Everyone is happy and having fun. You're in the crowd and the party is on its way. What an evening, what a day. People drinking rum or even beer. People waving their national flag in the air. You join the crowd. You're having so much fun. You don't even care. You listen to the music in the background and you dance to the sound.
Thank you, Dwayne. And yes, I've got lots of memory of dancing around with Dwayne, Alison, Ellen, and all sorts of people. So I think we've just got two left. Julie, do you want to go first?
Sure thing. Mine is by me. It's called Carnival Nights. Bang, bang go the drums, the music plays, loud beats thud out, drowning, lost in the noise. People dance in the streets. So many colours, so many crowds. Thus, Catholic celebrations spread around the world as the colonists moved, leaving a legacy of pre-Lenten festivals, maybe built on earlier feasts, most likely it seems, but the boundaries are blurred before the Lenten austerity hit. Or was it the need to clear the cupboard, ready for new seasons and new harvest? All that remains today is the need to rejoice. Fat Tuesday gives us Mardi Gras. Masked debauchery abounds. Music, wild behaviour rules. Costumes give hints of yesterday's rebellion. Headdresses tall, jiggle and bob. Floats brightly coloured, moving slowly. Greens and oranges mix chaotically with the yellows, reds and blues. Jumping out from high costumes and low-cut outfits displaying shining flesh. Passers-by join in the ribaldry, and dancers move to the rhythm only they can choose, for the noise is too loud now to hear the music. And so what had evolved to become an act of defiance, a rebellion, changed. No more the rich, the poor against the rich, the powerful mocked and belittled. Slaves mimicking the masters, the owners, symbols becoming strong images through which to hold a mirror for all to see the wrongdoings. The evil shone bold and exaggerated in stark relief against the darkening skies. Now no religious festival celebrated. Instead, in these times of liberation, parades of lusty revelers hide the true intentions of the few who remember and honour their roots.
Thank you, Julie. And we've had a wonderful summer since the beginning of July of Carnival Workshops every Wednesday afternoon with Clary Salandy from Mahogany Carnival Design. And Clary is, just wonderful, but one of the best carnival artists in the world. And it's been such a privilege to find out so much more about the roots of carnival, meaning of carnival, and the different types of carnival, and how relevant it is to disabled people, of course, many of whom are modern slaves today. So I think it's a good time to just flag up that next week we will be previewing at our last Carnival Workshop next Wednesday our digital carnival performance for Hackney Carnival. That will go online on the weekend of Hackney Carnival, which will be the following weekend. We've also got a second Carnival percussion workshop next Thursday evening from 7 to 8 on Zoom with Zimali Kadina Guskosk. And Zimali also has a video on our website. He runs wonderful kitchen percussion workshops. All you've got to do is grab a saucepan or a frying pan, homemade shaker, and come along. If you'd like to join us, just drop us a line, info@together2012.org.uk, and we'll give you the Zoom link and tell you more. But I think we've got one more poem. Is that right, Tracy?
Yeah, I've got one by Dawn Barber, again entitled Carnival. One love, it's time for carnival. Let's all be happy and shake. Preparing rehearsals, now it's the day we are on our way. Down the street, people look at us, waving their hands. Children all excited, coloured costumes, makeup that makes us stand out. We are so full of happiness, we could fly to the sun. Photos are taken, memories of Carnival are here to stay. We will never forget this day. We just want to keep floating away in happiness.
Oh, thank you, Dawn. That's made me very nostalgic as well. In the archive section on our website, www.together2012.org.uk, you can see videos as well as still images of those days. But to have a look at our current Join In From Home Carnival project, just either go to the Join In From Home pull-down menu on our website, or the quick way is www.kitchencarnival.org. But now we're going to have a look at what the Art Club have been doing this week. On a Friday morning, the Art Club run a still life session where we create an image, share it with you over Zoom, but we can also text it to you, WhatsApp it to you, email it to you, whatever's easiest. The image is also audio described at the beginning of the session, and then people join in from home with whatever materials they've got. I've just got a couple that people wanted to show this week, but first, as always, I'm going to put the image up and challenge Robin to audio describe it unseen.
Well, golly, so Alison is yet again surprising her with her handbag collection. So we have 3 handbags, so kind of one in front of each other. One at the back is almost like a slim kind of briefcase, almost like a red leathery kind of A4 size thing with a large like letterbox handle. In front of that is a greens mostly and browns kind of boho chic-y kind of affair with laces and lots of colors in it, and in front of that is a very traditional sort of tent shaped handbag, triangular, narrow at the top, with a silver clasp. And then to bring it all together is I'd say a sort of a bronze colored, I'm sure it's material, but kind of like a bronze colored rose corsage, and a bronze ribbon across the front.
Thanks, Robin. As always, your vocabulary is much better than mine at these things. And just to say, by 6 o'clock on the Friday we record the show, the image is up for you to join in from home on our website. Go to Together 2012 TV and follow the links to highlights and links. And that will have all of the poems, all of the pictures, and critically, all of the links to things that we're talking about today. So I'm just going to take that off and show you a couple from this morning. So this is from Margaret Spence, who only took up drawing last year, and it's a really fantastic effort, which I think today is in felt tip, but that's really great. I couldn't begin to do anything like that. And this one, which is a beautiful pencil drawing, is another of Lee Brooker's. And that is just so fantastic to see, as always. You know, well done, Lee. Just great. So now I shall move on to the Makin Natter session, and that's run by the Art Club on a Tuesday morning from 11 to 12 on Zoom. What we do is encourage people either to bring your own craft projects that you might want to show other people, get a bit of inspiration, or just have a sociable hour. Alternatively, you can join in with an activity led by our club's programme leader, Alison Marchant, which will be based on recycled materials you already have at home. And I'm just going to show you a couple from Tuesday. So this regular viewers will recognise as Duncan Bridgestock. And Duncan has been making an amazing series of collages out of recycled card. This is a blue one on a white background, and I'm afraid I'm going to leave it there rather than get Robin to do his fantastic audio description, just because we've got so much to fit in today. But Duncan is doing an online exhibition of his collages as part of our festival in November, so I'm really looking forward to that. Now, this one, I think you might recognise, Tracy. It's from Crystal Peasy, and Crystal is making animals based on toilet rolls, old empty toilet roll inners, that she's covered with paper. And this has become a sort of pink creature with blue paper arms and face. It's really very, very effective. And you can find details of how to do that and lots of other activities on our website under the Join In From Home section, and go to Join In with Tracy, and we're going to have another Join In with Tracy report shortly. So well done, Crystal. Now, the other thing people have been doing in the Makin Natter sessions is working on designs and costumes for the Kitchen Carnival project. So I just wanted to finish really by saying that this is Sophia, and she's made a black bat mask, which I have to say I designed originally. All you need to make this mask is some kitchen foil, some paint, half a cereal packet, and one toilet roll inner. So it's really very, very achievable. And this one is Margaret Spence, who's partway through making the same design. And I'm really impressed by how many people have engaged with this project. It's really, really great. So if you'd like to make your own Kitchen Carnival back costume out of kitchen recycling, there are lots of instructions and different designs on the website www.kitchencarnival.org.uk. So Tracy, tell us what we're going to see next in the Join In with Tracy section.
Well, I think people might remember last week I used some salt dough to create some little figures, So this week, in fact, I've got to admit, it did take quite a few days for my salt dough to dry, whether that was the atmosphere or the weather we've been having. But I did leave them to dry till they were completely dried. And this week I had a go at painting them. So we're going to look at my sort of semi-finished salt dough.
And just to clarify for people like me who've never made it and perhaps aren't the most experienced cooks either, it's part water, part salt and part plain flour, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, really easy to make. And it doesn't matter what you start off with as long as it's the equal amount. So it's a cup, 1 cup of flour, half a cup of salt, half a cup of water. So that doesn't matter whether you start with an egg cup or a saucepan, as long as the ratio is the same. And it makes you mix it all together, and it sort of makes a bit like breadcrumbs, and then it suddenly just turns into a ball of stuff. I was going to say dough, but it's like dough. You knead it a little bit, and then it's like having clay, but much cheaper, much easier to work with. And you can just be as creative as you want. So
fantastic. So let me pop these pictures up into the stream.
Yeah, so I thought I'd have a go at painting them now that they were totally dry. I used acrylic paints because water-based paints would just melt the salt in the dough. So I've managed to use some acrylic paints that we've got. And with acrylic, you only need a small amount as well. It does go a long way.
And I
So
think I recognise those makes because in the days when we were delivering in person in an actual venue, we used to provide all the materials free. So you could buy surprisingly cheap acrylic paints. Let me move us on to the next picture.
Yeah. So I started with I just had red, blue, white and green. Now, as you can see, I'd made some little circles and threaded them onto a barbecue skewer. What I've done here is I've just dropped two into each colour, and I'm just sort of rolling them around in the paint to get them covered. So I've got the green one, and then I'm just doing it with the red. As you can see, you really don't need a lot of this paint. It goes a long way. So there I've got 8. So I obviously when they've been covered in the paint, the white didn't come out as well as I wanted, so I swapped that out for yellow. So I've got 8 little beads, 2 green, 2 yellow, 2 blue and 2 red. On the barbecue stick, sort of suspended over a dish so that they would dry. This is something. So I'll show you this. The beads next week. Tell you what they turned into. But here we're looking at. I had to go at making a rose, which was really, really easy. So I painted that in red. I was quite impressed that it does look quite detailed. You can see all the layers. I was quite happy with that because this is the first time I've used salt dough myself. I've made it before to use with my girls' brigade, but I've never actually used it myself. So I was quite happy with what I ended up with. And there's my rose. I painted the bottom half of the rose in a red and the bottom half with a bit of green. And then I tried to make a little teddy. I think one of his ears have dropped a little bit, but I've got a little teddy bear that I've made sitting on a red cushion. Literally, it's just the round body, round head, little feet. Painted it in yellow and put a little smile on its face. So I was there.
It's put a smile on my face. I was never convinced by it as a teddy bear, but now I think it looks like a little dog. I think it's
okay. Thank you.
But yeah, I think it's fascinating. And once you've baked it and painted it, it will last as long as clay, won't it?
Oh, absolutely, yes. We've got some that I've made Christmas decorations with my children when they were younger, going back 5-6 years, and they still come out of the box every year and go on the Christmas tree. So they are as hard as clay when they're completely dried.
And I think although there's lots of talk about how child friendly the sort of things like Play-Doh are, there's an awful lot that isn't so great for the environment in it. You know, I think this is a really kind of environmentally sound way of doing modelling, as well as meaning you don't have to go and order it, you don't have to go and pay for it, you don't have to go and buy it, just use a bit of, order a bit of extra flour or try and bulk some.
And also what I found, I haven't got a lot of strength in my hands, is it's very easy to use. It's soft. You don't have to put a lot of work into it. You don't have to, really work it hard, because it's quite soft to start with. So I found that easy to use.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the other thing that's put me off doing anything with clay. But you watch programs like the Great Pottery Throwdown and you think, I really love to do it. I really love to do it. But again, as so often, once I've had a recommendation from you, I will give it a go. So in a minute, we will look at the week ahead and see what else Tracy might be recommending to do on screen or off. I've had lots of good iPlayer recommendations. But first, and isn't it wonderful that it's in the middle of the real Paralympics, finally, our Clockwork Paralympics. And in our Clockwork Paralympics, it's very straightforward. We have different clockwork toys competing. You choose, well, as I set up the Paralympics, my co-host gets to choose which toy to support which side of the screen, if you'd like to do that at home. And then we compete to see whose teddy bear is going to wear the medal this week. One of the many medals in the Paralympian household, or the gold plastic soul medal in my house, but I do have more teddy bears. But I think we've got some very special competitors this week. Do you want to go first?
Oh, well, with you mean our Sonics?
No, I mean your teddy.
Sorry. I've been a bit dim there.
Can't see.
So here he is, Tom. And Tom was the mascot from the Rio Paralympic Games. That one of our athletes' friends, in fact, one of the women's basketball team that were there, got this for us last time out. And the request has gone into one of the swimmers we know who's in Tokyo at the moment to see if they can get us a genuine Tokyo one. But we'll wait for that. So this is Tom.
I'm delighted to introduce my teddy Tanny, who I think I'm going to leave sitting behind me for the moment. Tanny, as always, is dressed in her sporting clothes. She's carrying a Paralympic supporter, and in her hands is a genuine Paralympic Tokyo mascot. Rather a small one, but I suspect still very expensive. Called
Samaete.
I'm glad you knew that.
Which is it was chosen by the children in the schools. It's a Samaete is a type of cherry blossom, and it's also known as Be Mighty.
Okay, because I knew it was a cherry blossom from process of deduction. But yes, I was very lucky. I got Tanny and my cherry blossom mascot, whose name I've already forgotten, for my birthday in May. And our teddy bears, when we have teddy bears, are also taking part in the virtual international bear hunt. So if you've got children, if you're out and about on the streets, look for teddy bears in the window. And if you're at home, stick one on your live stream. So, Robin, do you want to do the audio description for the Paralympics? We got, like last week, in honour of the Tokyo Paralympics, we have some of our best-known athletes returning. These are not sprinters.
So we got the caterpillars again. So we're going to choose the right side of the screen as we look at it. Yep. So we'll choose the orange caterpillar, and for Birmingham 2022, and London will be competing with the green caterpillar. We are on the very smooth floor, and they're off. And the green one, I think the green one is about to hit the bar. So I think by some, okay, but it's been cut up. It's cut them up. Oh, that is an amazing pull out by the London team there, I have to say. Birmingham have failed miserably this week. whereas London have absolutely crawled their way to victory. Well done, London.
Hooray. About time, I
It
say.
is about time. Julie, I'm going to give you the medal, and I'm going to give you Tanny, who's just dropped everything else. But, you know, who wouldn't when they're just about to medal?
Yeah, absolutely. That was Samate who just practicing their low jump.
Diving, darling, diving.
Yes.
Sabote's diving at the moment. So we move swiftly on to the week ahead. And of course, the main thing we'll be doing is watching the Paralympics. So do you want to tell us, Julie, because I know you've been watching all week, where we find the Paras on TV?
I don't think you can miss it if you tune into Channel 4 at any point. They do insist on telling you over and over again. It's on More 4, Channel 4, the website, which is www.channel4/paralympics.com, where you can choose from 16 screens, I believe. I haven't been able to do that, I have to say. I've not had any success. But I have watched it on More 4 and I've watched it on Channel 4.
There's also something called All 4, ALL4.
Right, thank you.
Which is where I found the multi-screen one.
Oh, thank you.
Well, that's helpful to know.
Yes.
So do you have any favourite recommendations, Robin? You know, catch-up shows, main shows?
In terms of the Paralympics, well, we haven't really been able to find any catch-up stuff. Other than the kind of the highlight reels. I mean, and of course, as a swimmer, you know, we've been watching as much swimming as you can kind of find because you're having to fast forward a lot to find the actual sporty bits. But there's been some amazing successes already in the swimming pool, particularly from the women's side that I'm more aware of from what I've seen. And both Tully Kearney, who in fact is a Sutton Coldfield resident, or very close to, and Maisie Summers-Newton both won gold yesterday and both broke world records. And you know, Maisie Summers-Newton is, I mean, she's been kind of just progressing. You know, obviously as a swimming coach, we attended a lot of events prior to the pandemic and have seen the progression of Maisie. And yesterday she was extraordinary in the individual medley. I'm
very much looking forward to catching up with all that over the weekend. I suppose I've got two main complaints over the BBC coverage of the Olympics, and one is nothing in the evening, and the other is the adverts interrupt it too much on as a background for work. But moving on, so let's see what else is on the week ahead. And over the weekend, the first thing I'm recommending is virtual Notting Hill. Can I just ask you, hear my sound in the background? Are you able to turn your monitors down slightly? Thank you. It's been going on for about 5 minutes, so we live in hope of getting rid of our technical problems one day. So over the bank holiday, Notting Hill is virtual again. We were honoured to see some of the footage being shot, well, recordings of some of the footage being shot for last year at our Wednesday workshop with Clary Salandy, and it really kind of said, yes, it's not the same thing at all, but actually the virtual stuff is still really worth watching. So tomorrow night, Saturday, from 6 till midnight, there's actually a live stream from the Panorama celebration of Carnival culture, which includes the final of the 2021 Steel Pan competition. And that's streaming live on TikTok, who are the new partners of Notting Hill, and their address is NH Carnival LDN. But that will be up with the proper link on highlights and links. And the other thing I'm recommending for the Notting Hill Virtual Carnival is on Bank Holiday Monday. Then there's a live stream running on YouTube all day with all sorts of things that have been specially recorded with well-known carnival artists from Notting Hill. So it's going to be a great thing to do. It's many years since I was fit enough to get to Notting Hill. So actually, I'm really enjoying the online stuff. What's the next thing you'd recommend, Tracy?
Well, I'm actually going to read it this week because I do normally write it down, but then I can't see it. and I've got that situation where I need close-up glasses and far-away glasses, so I have to work out where I can actually see from. So the first thing I'm going to recommend, it's called Art Unlocked, and it's the Stanley Spencer Gallery this time. It's a free event. It's online. It's with Eventbrite, and it's, I wrote it down, which was really clever, but can't see it. So from memory, it's a 30-minute talk about the work from that artist, and there's also time that the work of the. Sorry, I will say that again. My eyes have just clicked in. So each week, a different museum or gallery delivers a 30-minute talk about the works of their collection. So I'm quite. I did a little background search on Stanley Spencer, and I'd be quite interested to see the work that he's put together.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the idea of being able to hop in for half an hour a week to a different gallery. You know, it's one of the sort of bonuses of
it's done on a Zoom, and then you also get a chance to ask questions. So I think that's quite a good idea.
Yeah, it's much not. I mean, I think I love live stuff online. When it's a recording, you always mean to get to it, but you don't always. Although if you're watching this as a recording, I don't recommend that attitude. Scampering towards our and finally section, which this week is an extended interview with Robin and Paralympian and activist Tara Flood. So, Julie, very quickly, what else have you got for us?
Well, funnily enough, I chose Stanley Spencer as well, which is how I knew it's on Wednesday at 5:30. And as Tracy said, you can book it through Eventbrite. There's also Katie Archibald has got an online interview about books which influenced her. She was a gold and silver medalist in the Olympics on the cycling. And finally, the Science Museum have got a wonderful website online where you can explore their archives.
I think that was 2 for the price of 1 there. I'm going to chuck in very, very quickly because it's part of the Can Do campaign, which has been supporting disabled people to get fit. If you've seen it on TV, I think it's a fabulous campaign. I used to call the This Girl Can campaign This Girl Can't because they always excluded disabled people. So it's really great to see these ongoing adverts for disabled people's fitness. But this is actually music from around the world on the 1st of September from 1 to 2. And Dan, who is the Can Do coordinator, plays his guitar, takes you on a journey from around the world. You can share your favourite music, listen carefully, guess where sounds come from, learn about different chords, have a chat. So it actually sounds like a really good time, and I think they're doing that quite regularly as well. But I'll be very interested to see how it does click into the Can Do campaign. Maybe they're doing art and culture as well. We'll have to send Robin off as a roving reporter to find out. So I've got space for about 30 seconds. Does anybody have something they'd like to?
Can I quickly say then it's another one that I found on the Eventbrite called Nicer Tuesday. It's a monthly event. And this one for next week is Finding a Tone of Voice, which I thought was really interesting. For me, particularly as a woman, I don't always get listened to when I'm at conferences or meetings or on Zoom. And all the details are going to be on our site. But it was about finding your voice and being able to different techniques and ways of putting across what you want to say. So I'm quite interested in that, and that's one of these pay as much, pay if you can, with a starting suggestion of £2. So I think that's not too bad because, as we've said before, artists need to make a living. So I'm going to try that one.
So if you don't have any money, don't feel guilty about going. It's not like you're taking up space at a paid event. People will be delighted to see you, and everybody understands that particularly after COVID, lots of people can't afford it. So that brings us almost to I was going to say last, but by no means least, our interview with Tara Flood. So I just want to remind people that at 6 o'clock on a Friday, our highlights and links page is online at www.together2012.org.uk with all of the poems, artwork and videos, and of course, the highlights and links that we've just been talking about. There's lots of activities to join in from home free, including, of course, our kitchen carnival. And if you'd like to come to our final sharing and percussion workshop on Wednesday afternoon or Thursday evening next week, just drop us a line, info@together2012.org.uk. If you're interested in joining our clubs, they're all free, open access. Again, check out the website or drop us an email and we'll be delighted to see you. So apart from that, it's goodbye from East London. And I think that must be goodbye from the West Midlands.
Bye.
I was waiting. Yeah, it's goodbye from us, and let the interview introduce you to Tara Flood.
And if you're watching this on the Friday or indeed over the weekend, have a terrific bank holiday.
Hey, today I am talking with Tara Flood, who is an inclusion expert, activist, campaigner. But before we get on to that, Tara, can you tell us a little bit about your Paralympic history?
I can. It feels like a long time ago now, but I'd always been into sport and swimming, particularly from being a very young person. But my first Paralympics, although it wasn't called a Paralympics, was the delightfully titled International Games for the Disabled in 1984 in New York, and then I did 88 in Seoul, and then my last Paralympics was in Barcelona 1992. But in between, like you, Robin, I did lots of different international and national events right across Europe. So I was a very busy Paralympian, disabled swimmer for all of that time, and loved every minute of it. It was the best experience of my life. There were lots of things that I would want to have changed about it in terms of how disability sport is organised, and that was one of the reasons that I left in 1992. But I never ever fell out of love with the sport itself.
I mean, I very, very similar to yourself, is got utterly disillusioned with the management as it was then, and the complete denial of opportunity for disabled athletes to go into management roles, which is kind of why we're campaigners. I mean, we always were. So just kind of before we leave the Paralympics, obviously the 2020 Paralympics are currently going on. How do you feel that now that they're getting such coverage and kind of the athlete profiles and seeing people in Dreams adverts and stuff like that?
So look, I mean, I've got to, even the most hardened activist has got to accept that there is something really interesting happening in the media in terms of disabled athletes. And I remember, as I'm sure you will have done, that in 92, which was my most successful Paralympics, gold medal, world record, 2 silvers and a bronze, I couldn't have been more successful from my perspective. And yet I was pretty sure that it was only recognised that the media had a lot to do to recognise and to treat us fantastically successful athletes with the same level of respect and interest as they did Olympic athletes. And I think if anything has changed, that's changed. So now, very slowly, a very small handful of British Paralympic athletes are now starting to gain some degree of celebrity status, and that's good, I think. But I think there are lots of things that come with that I think we as disabled people, we as disabled campaigners and activists need to be calling out. I think there is still far too much obsession with wanting to know what our impairments are. So I just listened on the radio to an account of yesterday's success, and every single account of a race starts with describing an athlete's impairment. And I really look forward to the time where I don't have to hear that, because what? No one really cares. They really don't care. They're only, and you must have noticed this. The thing that really shifted for me was London 2012. I went along to every swimming final, and also saw other events, and just being in the crowd, it was clear no one cared about the descriptions of someone's physicality. All they were interested in was whether or not a British athlete had won a medal, and the excitement around that was fantastic. And oh God, I remember kind of almost now, kind of like hairs going up on the back of my neck, being part of a kind of like a crowd of people who were just absolutely delighted that one of our own had got a medal, had won a race, whatever it was. And that shifted, hasn't it? But I think so but let's ditch the kind of obsession with people's impairment labels,
which really leads nicely into kind of talking to you about the other half of you, or the contemporary you, which is you know, as an inclusion expert, and you've done a huge amount of work in education, and still involved in that. But I'd like you to tell the viewers actually a little bit about what you're now doing and kind of how it all ties together.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, that's right. I'm never sure I like to describe myself as an expert, really. I much rather describe myself as an inclusionist or an inclusion activist. But yeah, so I mean, all of that work, I suppose my activism really comes from childhood experience of segregated education. And this idea that we still, even in 2021, think that it's perfectly acceptable to segregate groups of disabled children and adults into separate institutions because somehow we are going to get a better education, or we're going to have a better life separated from society. It's just, it's always been nonsense to me, and it continues to be nonsense. And so I will always continue until we see an end to that. I will always campaign for an ending of segregation, whether or not it's the shutting of segregated schools or institutions where many thousands of disabled people still are warehoused. But so I was the director of the Alliance for Inclusive Education for 14 years, and 2 years ago decided to leave, and I'm now working weirdly for a local authority, London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham, really in a role that was created out of my activism. I job share with my colleague Kevin Caulfield, which I'm sure some people will know, who is also a disability rights activist. And we created a role out of a piece of work that I did before I started working at the council. I chaired a Disabled People's Commission that was pulled together by the visionary leader of the council, Steve Cowan, who's been an amazing ally to disabled people in the borough. And we were all disabled people, and we kind of thought it was probably going to be a once in a generation opportunity. So we decided to focus on something big. So not thinking about the little bits and pieces that you could do to tweak around the edges, but let's go for something big. And what do we know? Well, we know that disabled people, whatever our intersectional barriers, are furthest away from the decision-making process. So what could we do to address that? So we decided to focus on seeking a commitment from the local authority that they would start to co-produce policies and service design and delivery with local disabled residents. And I know, as with inclusion, co-production is a much misunderstood concept, because people will often think that co-production is basically just a new word for engagement or a new word for really crappy consultation. And we've been really clear in our definition of co-production that it's about disabled people and decision makers working together from the beginning to design, deliver and evaluate policies and services that will remove the barriers that disabled people face. That's the working definition, and it's one that we will change as we start to, I suppose, embed it. But Kevin and I are employed to turn that commitment into reality. And I think we're the first local authority to commit to that across all aspects of a local authority. And I think that probably there is a context in which we sought that commitment, and it's the context of being the only local authority to still not charge disabled people for home care. And we are holding tight to that commitment, even in these really difficult circumstances, because I don't think we've quite reached the tipping point where if Kevin and I weren't there, that commitment would remain. But there is something really important in being within a local authority that sees home care charging as discriminatory. So I guess we're at the local authority, and it's interesting being disability rights activists working for a local authority, because usually we are campaigning against those kind of structures, because those kind of structures often make things much more difficult for disabled people. But we are in at the heart of the beast, I think, to try to show what it's possible to do if you have a local authority who is wanting to understand independent living, wanting to understand its role, the role that it can play in addressing exclusion and inequality as experienced by disabled people.
I think that's incredible. Because as a campaigner myself, we've done so much work just trying to stop the erosion of services. So to hear such a positive story of engagement and commitment to our participation in the decision making that goes into the services, rather than this is what we've decided, what do you think?
Yeah, exactly.
Just to close, really, what would you say to our viewers on how they can keep their heads up, keep their heads above water, and continue to fight for what they need in their lives?
Oh God, Robin, that's a good question. I suppose it's what keeps me going, really, and it's the sense of knowing, being really clear about the change that we want to make, and understanding the role that we play in leading that change, but recognizing that we can't do it on our own. I think one of the most important things is knowing who our allies are. So our allies, and I learned this when I was at the Alliance for Inclusive Education, and I guess it's the same with any civil rights movement, isn't it? That whilst the people who are most affected and will benefit most by the change need to be leading the change, we need to have allies alongside us to really push for that change. So it's building a movement of disabled people, but also seeking allies along the way, because this is not a quick fix. The things that we are wanting to change, the oppression, the inequality, the discrimination that is relentless in our lives, let's be honest, has been created through decades, and the fix for that will take just as long. So this is about knowing the change that we can create, and building a movement. And there is a movement of disabled people. There is a movement of disabled people's organisations. So find your local organisation of disabled people. They exist. They are struggling at the moment for all the reasons that we know, but they do still exist. And London has got some amazing organisations. Newham has got some amazing organisations right across London, and they are across the country too. But it's finding them, recognising that the change that you're calling for, that we are calling for as individuals, are the same changes that the movement has been calling for decades now. So get involved in the movement. If you haven't heard about the social model, find out about the social model, because for disabled people, for me, it was like a light going on in my life, because it helps you understand that it's not our responsibility as disabled people to fit in with society. It is absolutely the responsibility of society to make room for disabled people and to value our existence and to value our citizenship. Yeah, and I suppose it's remembering that we're not going to change everything immediately. It's looking for the small changes that you can make that start to build a movement towards the big changes, which is why in Hammersmith and Fulham we focused on ending home care charging, because actually it started to create an environment, a context where we can start to say, actually, if we're not going to charge for home care, what we also need to do is think about the other things that we need to do, that disabled people need to lead around, which is we need to shift away from the language of adult social care, and we need to think about what an independent living service looks like. We need to think about what an inclusive education service looks like. These are all things that disabled people have been talking about for decades, but we need to start to, I suppose, remind people that those campaigns, despite the pandemic, despite austerity, are still the important things that we need to focus on.
Brilliant. So, Tara, thank you so much. Keep up the great work.
Well, listen, you too. All right, take care.
Rather than me.
That was great. It was a very good interview.